While every culture is unique, Japan's truly stands out as very much its own. So it seems fitting that their most famous track, Suzuka, sets itself apart as well. It's time for a race on a rare figure 8 layout as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Donkey Beard. With many decades of history and some truly monumental moments, Suzuka has plenty to talk about. So let's check it out with our track guide.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard?
Well, Joey, this is a track often described as very much a driver's track.
I think it's a driver's favorite as well as a fan favorite. Suzuka, 3.6 miles in total length and 17 turns is the layout that we are going to be doing here. And one of the cool parts about this circuit is that it is a figure 8. You see where it crosses over there, where we've got the bridge section just after the Degner curve. So a little bit of an overview. Sector 1, you got to be on the line through those S curves. Sector 2, you got that turn 11 hairpin that also feeds down into that spoon curve, kind of a decreasing radius corner where you really got to get on that late apex there because it shoots you all the way down to that 130R corner. And then, of course, the lap ends with that Casio Triangle down there that turns 15, 16, and then accelerates your way out onto that front straightaway.
Now, before we get to the racing, we want to mention our sponsors, which of course includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. As for the championship, things getting a little interesting, or at least it was, because Andrew Chinichi is leading, but look at how tight it is. Now, he missed 2 weeks, so that's going to go towards his drops. So he has been strong when he does show up, and he is here today, so watch out for him starting to pull away. Only 4 points down from Andrew for BJ Fulton, who is still looking for that first win of the season. He's got 5 second places, and they're being closely followed now by Dylan Scott as well, who's taken the last 2 wins, but he's also not here today. So it's going to mix things up for sure, despite it coming in very tight. It's not even that big of a leap down to Marc Rondeau, where things finally separate a little bit more to Dustin Heindl at 18 points. Bolton, Johnson, Leclerc, and Steele round out your top 10 for the moment, but that's just GT1, Joey. What about the GT2s?
Yeah, it's got the Caymans over here, and Federico Del Toro currently leads that points championship, 9 points over Christopher Marciniak right now, and then a little bit of a gap back to Rob Russell, just a single point advantage over Larry Haas there, who sits in the 4th place position, and then another good pair of battles between John Momeyer and Adam Abrams, only 2 points separating those pair of drivers. Also got Sam Mayorga, Matt Hollander, Daniel Vaverko, James Baxter all included here inside the top 10 as well.
And for today's race, we have our traditional fare, of course. It's only going to be 40 minutes. And there's your two classes. The GT1s are the GTE class cars, and the GT4s are the GT2s. I know it's confusing. But they have two spare cars that are waiting for them if they run into incidents. So hopefully that should be enough to get you through the 40 minutes. We have had DNFs in the past, though, so you don't want to waste them too early, especially at a track that's as difficult as this one is. And right now, Shinichi is on the provisional pole in our qualifying session, at least in the GTE cars. Federico Del Toro comes back with the current pole position in the GT4s. And it looks like he has a massive gap to Marciniak there at 1.1 seconds.
It's pretty impressive, and I know that Federico is always learning, always trying to improve his craft as a driver, so there's going to be some tracks that he's a little bit more prepared for, and kind of to your point, Joe, I see 1.1 seconds. This must be a track that just kind of flows with Federico in that Cayman.
For sure, it looks like he's got a good handle on it, and considering he's got 3 wins already this season, he's going to want to try and carry on the good momentum that he's got. In fact, 3 wins and 3 second places. He's been having an excellent season so far. Andrew Chinichi on 4 wins thus far, but he missed the first round as well as the most recent 2 that I was talking about. So it really does make life difficult for Andrew. In fact, I'll need to double check on the minimum amount that he is allowed, because there is that minimum number of races that you must show up to, or else you're not eligible for the championship.
I think that's neat to have kind of rules based into the series like that, so you don't have just hot shoes coming through and basically skipping all the bye weeks that they can and only showing up for the races that they know they're going to win. So I like it. I like the way the POC has really organized everything. It's small, content, and provides some good racing on that every other week basis.
So I found it, and it is a minimum of 9 weeks. So with 13 rounds, he's missed 3 of them. He can only miss 1 more from here on out. If he wants to be eligible for the championship, he's got to keep showing up. And of course, those drops definitely make life difficult as well. As we check out Rob Russell, I am digging this new paint that we've got on Rob's car. Currently sitting 11th overall, but 3rd in his class right now. And as we get close to the end of the qualifying, let's see, is this looking like a decent one for him? It looks like this is an outlap, actually. So he's got to try and do this one more lap. No, excuse me. The checkered flag is out. That clock ticking down as to when the session will officially transfer here.
Correctamundo, dude. I was waiting for you to pick that up. We've been watching a little bit of qualifying here, but you're right. Rob Russell is just out there essentially extending his qualifying session and making sure he's got all those practice laps that he can. And just as I say that, it's officially clicked over to that race session.
All right, so with qualifying over, our grid is set. Let's go through that starting order. And Michael Bolton is going to be on the pole today. Andrew Chinichi is going to be starting next to him, with row 2 having BJ Fulton on the inside, Jad Duncan on the outside. Then you get to 5th and 6th, where you've got Dustin Heindel, flanked by Mark Rondeau there for row 3. Jeffrey Shulam will be starting in 7th, and then Robert Leclerc in 8th. And then we only have 9 cars in the class today for the GTE cars, and that's Will Castillo rounding them out.
And over into that Cayman GT4 category, your pole sitter is Federico Del Toro. That lap time of a 2:10.657. Lined up next to him in second place on row number 1 is going to be Christopher Marciniak. Rob Russell back there in 3rd, shares row number 2 with Larry Haas. Jim Garamani starts in 4th with John Momeyer Jim Garamani in 5th, John Momeyer in 6th, and Alan Watts starting in 7th.
Looks like just about have everybody lined up. It'll be a short pace lap. They'll be going just before Spoon Curve, and then the pace car will duck away. Other thing to remember, new for this season for this series, they will have limited fuel cells, Joey, so that means a pit stop. Who is going to be able to nail that or potentially use that to their advantage? Because sometimes it could be a little bit tough to pass around here.
It can be a single-lane racetrack around Suzuka, and since you kind of mentioned the fuel game and kind of open up the strategy box out here at Suzuka, we also have to take into effect the possibility of that first lap yellow flag. And if that does happen, safety car laps around here are going to be probably about 4 minutes. I would guess 3.5, maybe 4 minutes long. And all of a sudden, what was a 40-minute race can turn into a sprint pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if you are on your toes about that, you need to make sure that you don't let that opportunity go and really try to use that well, especially if it means you don't have to pit at all. Meanwhile, up we go down the back stretch into 130R. Bolton versus Shinichi. Michael Bolton has had 2 podiums so far this season. He's going to try and see if he can take number 3. It's been a while since round 4 since we've seen him within the top 3.
The opening lap here at Suzuka can definitely dictate some track position, so we're going to see how aggressive they're going to get going down into that turn 1 and 2 complex, especially with these GTE cars. Remember, they can be loose, especially on cold tires. You got all the weight in the back on these machines, and these drivers are anxious to get this race going.
I'm sure they all are. Del Toro, you got to think about him as well. Doesn't want to waste a good opportunity with all the pace that he has in hand. Takes a bit before we get the green flag usually at this track, as the start line is a ways down the front straightaway. The finish line, though, comes early. They've already crossed that, so watch out for that if we get towards the end. Green flag is out, and it looks like it is a decent start for Michael Bolton here on the inside. Shinichi not really getting the go, and he is going to fall down to second right at the start. Bolton going to take the lead away. It looks like Fulton is even going to try and get by as they come through turns 1 and 2, and down into the snake. He has to fall back. Shinichi at least defends second place.
Yeah, and back in the Cayman class, Federico Del Toro is able to hang on to that lead from pole position, so he leads over Christopher Marciniak as our entire field goes through the snake. The S's for the very first time. You got to make sure you stay on line here, especially with those cold tires. If you miss one apex, you're probably going to miss the next one.
Down into the Degners now, and still Bolton leads Shinichi. Oh, we see a car spinning off in the background that looked like Momeyer, who finds himself facing the wrong way along with somebody else, as I think that was Alan Watts.
Yeah, I think it started actually in front of Momeyer, and John Momeyer unfortunately got collected. I'm sure we'll get a replay of it as these cars go through what is the turn 11 hairpin, one of the slowest corners on this racetrack, and then you accelerate down this bending straightaway to one of the most difficult corners in motorsports, Spoon Curve.
Looks like, well, Momeyer did have a black and orange flag, but they have cleared that, so hopefully his car drives okay after that one. In the meantime, look at Shinichi, hot on the heels of Bolton, not willing to try it in a 130R, though. He's staying line astern, maybe trying to see if he could set himself up for the chicane. Oh, but he drifts wide, and he gets a little bit too far back. Oh, but he spins it!
Yeah, he just got out on that driver's left side grass on the corner entry. Oh, and then a little bit of contact right behind him. And I also see, am I getting a full course yellow flag already? So we're going to bring them all down, slow them down behind the safety car. These cars are still racing. Hopefully they kind of get the heads up. Some cars are going slow on the straightaway here. And I think race control is going to have to sort out the order of things.
Thankfully, that's all automated on iRacing, so they should really just leads right into what you were talking about earlier as we look at Alan Watts. He lost it first and then got into the side of Momeyer, unfortunately. But yeah, this now means we could see a race that will require, easier for me to say, no pit stops for our drivers if they save enough fuel.
A possibility. And one good thing about having the admins in the session is that they can kind of bring the pace car in relatively quickly, right? It doesn't have to be the full 3 laps that iRacing would usually do. So fingers crossed, you know, I know that they've done this plenty of times before, and we'll get going back to green flag racing. But I think it just kind of extends that pit window, and kind of to your point, Joe, the further you can run it, the lighter off, the faster the car is going to be.
Absolutely. So, and even shorter pit stops, so everybody's got to pay attention there if they do need one. John Momeyer. Here's what happened to him. Must have gotten some significant damage if it got him a black and orange flag. So, oh yeah, that right rear definitely not in good shape.
No, I think it hit both corners, unfortunately, for John Momeyer, so he hit that toe button. And then I think that there was maybe just a little bit of a contact, maybe a half spin down here in the turn 11 hairpin a little bit later on. I think it involved Dustin Heindel, maybe. And then, of course, what we saw, Joe, at the end of the first lap, involving Shinichi going into that Casio triangle. I mean, that was a huge moment that this yellow flag is kind of bailing him out.
It really is. That keeps the gap down. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop the fact that two cars got by. BJ Fulton and Jad Duncan. So he still has to try and re-overtake them if he has his sights set on beating Michael Bolton today, which it does feel like in that first lap, Shinichi has good pace.
100%. So I thought that Shinichi was threatening to make the pass for the lead at the end of the first lap. Going through 130R, he just got out a little bit wide and kind of high-centered the car over those exit curbs, and so he had to lift off of the throttle. That's why he wasn't a threat going into the Casio triangle. Took it really deep on the brakes, and unfortunately, while he was on the brakes, he ran out of room on the left side of the racetrack, maybe got a little bit unsighted behind Michael Bolton, and that's what ended up causing the loss of traction, is basically just dipping those left side tires into the grass, and kind of had that half spin.
Now, Momeyer's toe means that he's taken a long time having to sit and wait. Usually that adds time if you're not familiar with iRacing. So you have to wait for as though a virtual tow truck was bringing you back into pit lane, and he's just emerging now. So it looks like he's finally been able to get back out on the circuit, but he's showing his one lap. No, he is on the lead lap. Okay, so this is good. He can try and rush back around and rejoin the tail of the train, and he'll get one more lap to do it, as they should be able to shorten the pace laps this time by.
We'll get going back green flag racing soon enough. It just causes difference in the strategy, and there was that moment right there with Shinichi. A little bit difficult to see. He kind of rejoined. Oh, that was the contact with Dustin Heindel. So that wasn't down at the turn 11 hairpin. I was just kind of getting things mixed up in my brain. Had a little bit of contact through that Casio triangle right behind Shinichi's incident.
And Jim Garamani setting the fastest lap of the race at about
Scorching.
3 minutes and 53. So I'm sure some sort of lap record, maybe for a go-kart, but
what is impressive about it, though, Joe, is that he is 5th in the Cayman GT4 class, setting the overall fastest lap.
Certainly, yeah, it's definitely a bit of a weird one. I guess the GT4s were still catching up to the back of the field at the time, so that maybe skewed it somewhat. But our musings on a bit of a weird situation. Nonetheless, we're going to get going racing relatively quickly here, which is great to see. Momeyer's already about half a lap away, so he'll probably get up to them in time. That means we should be restarting probably with about 29 minutes to go, maybe a little less than that.
Here's a shot of John Momeyer catching up to the back of the pack. He's still got a little bit of a ways to go right now, because he's approaching 130R. I think the rest of the field is going through the Degner turn, so he's just got to stay on it. He'll eventually catch up to the back of the pack, probably towards the end of the lap. Shouldn't be an issue.
Absolutely. So, unfortunate, this is what happens sometimes in this series. If you're wondering about the caution flag, that wasn't due, well, at least directly to the incident that we saw with Andrew Shinichi. This series has special rules set where if enough incidents are collected on the first lap, and incidents in iRacing include off tracks, cars contacting one another, spins, then the yellow flag will automatically be thrown by an app that they have running race control. So that's why they have that yellow flag, and that's to prevent any sort of major accident from separating the field too much. So if a lot of cars get collected, that we still have a race. But the downside is, as we said, with it being such a short race already, it means that it eats up quite a few laps, and it makes even more of a sprint out of what they're trying to tackle today.
as we still trundle around at pace car speeds, coming up to Spoon Curves. Only about, maybe call it a third of the track left here under pace car conditions. I was just noticing on timing and scoring, our entire Cayman GT4 class, with the exception of John Momeyer, who we saw have that incident, is actually in the same positions where they qualify.
Go figure. So, not much chance to try and make some overtakes there with them. Rondeau lost about 3 spots. Leclerc up 3 since the start of the race. So there have been some movers in the short time that we had. But that might be partly due to the fact that we did have those drivers getting sent off the circuit there for a brief moment at the end of the lap. And I think we're going to see Momeyer maybe pop up at the very tail of this train here shortly. As I think he's just about there, and good timing, because one more chicane and that pace car will let them go again.
And I'm not quite sure what's happening with Will Castillo right now. He's dropping through the order, but he's had the black flags cleared. And I just mention it because he's a GTE car kind of mixed up, and now he finally gets in order at the back of his respective class.
Yeah, I think the black flag dealt with something at the start of the race, potentially, that was just a clerical error by the sim, so they cleared it for him since he didn't do anything wrong by the rules. But pace car is back in, and Bolton is waiting as long as possible, not wanting to give Fulton and Duncan a chance to try and attack him like we saw Andrew Chinichi do at the start of the race. Andrew Chinichi, though, is going to get his own attack as he gets to the inside, coming down into the first corner. He'll get one as Jad Duncan got mugged.
Nicely done from Chinichi there in turns number 1 and 2, and now he sets sail to try to chase down BJ Fulton directly in front of him, and you see him just already kind of creeping the nose towards the apex of those corners, trying to keep the clean air on that splitter. Don't want any of that dirty air, especially with multiple cars in front. The more cars you got in front of you, the worse off that front grip is going to be.
Almost exactly 10 minutes eaten up for this race. So it will be a little bit more like it was in previous seasons in this series as we ride on board with Chinichi. Next on his list, BJ Fulton. Will he try and get him down into the hairpin?
Fulton really deep on the brakes and kind of towards the middle of the racetrack there. And now Chinichi with an excellent edge that he stands on the gas, except he's going to have to go the long way around. This is a bending straightaway towards driver's right. So it plays into BJ Fulton's hands. How deep is Chinichi going to go on the brakes? He's going to force it side by side and Spoon Curve. He's going to come away with the position.
He knew he could not sit around. He does not want to let Michael Bolton start to run away with the clear air in front of him. And Chinichi in a single lap has disposed of 2 drivers. Now he's going to try and catch back up to the 127 as we see Jeffrey Shulam in a race with Duncan. But I think Jad maybe got into the wall a little bit out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and definitely Jeffrey Shulam kind of muscling him around a little bit on the straightaway, making sure Jad Duncan didn't have anywhere to go coming up to 130R. And kind of to your point, Joe, I see heavy damage on the left rear of that black and yellow of Jad Duncan.
And that was an off for, I think, Leclerc that we saw off there for a moment. Yeah, so he has fallen down to 6. And a lot of mistakes here on this first restart, and Jad Duncan is into pit lane, I assume, to take that spare car.
That's what I would assume, as well as we get the shots of this Cayman GT4 field now. And I'll say that Rob Russell, he made the restart quite interesting. He almost went 3 wide. He got one heck of a jump on that front straightaway, but fortunately Federico Del Toro came through the middle, kind of stayed in the lead up front, and then Marciniak fell into second place, and Rob Russell now just settles into third place. I think this is the incident with Jad Duncan coming out of the turn 11 hairpin.
Wheels in the grass right as he's trying to spool him up, and that just spat him into the left-hand barrier. So that has put him at a disadvantage behind the entirety of the GT4 field, of which we're watching the battle for second. Marciniak versus Russell, and this is Momeyer on his way back versus Garamani, who I think was the one that made contact. No, it was Alan Watts that made contact with, excuse me. Although that's brave, down into the first Degner, and he makes it work.
Yeah, nicely done from Momeyer. So a chip on the shoulder, and He is back on things, and as you see Jed Duncan go by, that was a pretty easily executed pass. But this is our lead here. Michael Bolton has a hot Andrew Chinichi right on the tail approaching 130R. Can Andrew keep it off of the exit curves this time?
And can he avoid what happened last time? A little bit of contact, winding up sending him spinning and having to do some hard work today. Oh, tries to cut underneath, but the car is there. That compromises his exit. Chinichi loses a couple car lengths.
It's all about nailing turns 1 and 2 now for Andrew, and we've seen that on the restart, how he was able to slip underneath some cars and execute those passes quite nicely. And see how Michael Bolton does through this section as well. Andrew's able to eat up a little bit in turn number 2, but Bolton's able to accelerate away, so pretty evenly matched here through the first set of corners.
Bolton obviously fighting hard for this win. He wants his first of the season, as he's only got 2 third places to his name so far this time around. Been a bit of a rough one at times. He's going to have a lot of hard work to do with Chinichi breathing down his neck. And if they mess around too much, BJ Fulton is less than a second behind.
That's a great point. Yeah, you can't kind of mess around too much. You got that third car in line that's pretty much just chomping at the bit, waiting in the wings, just trying to get those positions. As Mark Rondeau looks like he went up a spot. Maybe Robert Leclerc is still having some issues. A big slide of the tail through the second Degner curve there for Robert. So I think he's struggling for grip overall, it seems.
Does seem like it's not a happy day for Robert Leclerc. Don't know if there's any damage on the car or if just can't seem to get it underneath him. Meanwhile, Russell versus Marciniak heading down into the first Degner. Not going to see a repeat of the heroics from last time from Momeyer. And he'll stay patient as they actually have a bad exit there, Rob Russell, coming off of the second Degner.
You got to remember, Rob Russell's coming off a second place finish, a nice podium the last time out, so he's definitely trying to keep the momentum going, while Christopher Marciniak is sitting second place in points, but he was not on the podium in last race. So both of these drivers, one trying to keep the momentum going, the other trying to regain it, as Chinichi closer than ever to our leader.
Yeah, Marciniak was on a streak of 4 straight podiums before he wound up with that 4th place. No move down into turn 1 this time from Chinichi, although I almost think he made contact there, just brushing against the bumper coming through turn 2. He's clearly trying to lay the pressure on. Oh, as again, he gets very tight to the rear of the 127. I almost wonder if he needs to back up a little bit to help set himself up here.
Nah, man. The closer you are, the better off you are. I wouldn't worry about it too much. And Chinichi's got plenty of experience following cars extremely closely, so I'm sure that he is very, very comfortable in that position. And let's see him through the second Degner curve here. But I gotta say that Michael Bolton is doing a fantastic job. It is not easy when a car is that close in the mirror to hit the brake zone, nailed every single apex. He's holding them off for now.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, especially someone who is a known factor like Chinichi, having taken so many wins in this series. Back to Momeyer, he's caught up to Larry Haas, so he's within the top 5 at this stage, trying to see if he can find a way past the 266, but the S's traditionally are pretty single file.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get a move done, at least before the turn 11 hairpin. I've still got my eye on the overall leader over here, and Chinichi probably 2 car lengths back, approaching 130R here, so I don't think that he's a threat right now going into the Casio triangle like we've seen him before. So actually, that was a mistake out of Bolton. He got wide on the exit of 130R there. That's going to open him up. Look at the launch onto the front straightaway. Now Chinichi turns our leader. They're both getting spun out. Oh, my goodness. Fulton takes avoiding action, and he's to the lead.
Wow. Incredible development for BJ Fulton. That'll be frustration for both Bolton and Chinichi. But Fulton now has an open goal. 4 seconds back to Dustin Heindel to try and run away with a surprise victory today.
And I'm sure that Andrew Chinichi is very frustrated. I'm sure that Michael Bolton is even more frustrated about it. But Unfortunately, you can't just drive through your competitors on the racetrack. I'm sure that Andrew will probably raise his hand once he reviews everything and says, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, just trying to launch off the corner a little bit too hard. Marc Rondeau is now sandwiched between the two former leaders here. Bolton in front of him, Shinichi behind him. Can he manage to hold off the multi-time winner, or is... I was going to say, are we going to see another move into Degner 1? And thankfully, Shinichi reconsidered.
I do like that this incident has kind of packed them all up into some really good racing. And so this is a nice little four-pack of cars. Got Shulam leading it, kind of defending from Michael Bolton. And then, of course, you got Marc Rondeau in the thick of things with that Hot Wheels machine, defending from Andrew Shinichi. But Michael Bolton definitely looks on a run.
Get by Jeffrey Shulam. He's already about 8 seconds behind BJ Fulton if he thinks he can catch him back up, but he can't make the move here. The more time that goes by, the better this is for BJ Fulton. And credit to Andrew Shinichi. We're getting word that he gave the position back after the incident. Rob Russell off the circuit as Marciniak runs away. What happened between those two?
Yeah, I just went back and looked at it on my screen. It was pretty impressive. They went side by side through the first half. Oh my goodness, and 3 wide here between this GTE pack approaching the chicane, and now Rondeau goes sliding. Shulam keeps the position. Bolton still in that second place in the back, but unfortunately Rondeau loses a ton of track position.
It has been a frantic first half of this race. Keep your wits about you out there, because drivers are looking a little bit desperate today. Shulam holds on to third, Bolton's fourth now, and Shinichi is in fifth. Here's what happened with Russell and with Marciniak, and just side by side coming through the S's. Little bit of door banging at first. That's all good and dandy. But then, way too hard, launching the car up in the air. Russell goes flying into the gravel.
Yeah, really unfortunate there, and I don't think that there was any other contact afterwards. It was just a ton of lost track position, unfortunately, for Rob Russell, who we had just mentioned, coming off a nice second-place podium finish that last round out.
Still, we have not seen Bolton or Shinichi able to get by Jeffrey Shulam. Defense is the word of the day, I suppose, is if you're just hitting your marks, you're making yourself quite an immovable object for all those that arrive from behind.
Michael Bolton needs to play offense right here. He needs to get around Jeffrey Shulam. Approaching this spoon curve, you got to dance on the brakes so lightly here on this first apex. Really let the car drift out wide and then balance the car between the throttle, the gas to get it turned into that second apex. As the track, as you see, falls away from you with elevation as well. Just so much going on in that corner, but Bolton has a fantastic run. He's going to force the issue even before 130R. He's going to clear Shulam.
He is back into third. Will we see another move here? Look at the momentum from Shinichi. I think Shulam wanted to close the door, but he could not as he gets his way through. Andrew Shinichi now up into fourth.
You nailed it. Shulam definitely tried to close the door, but kind of Shinichi had his foot in it and was like, no, not so fast here, bud. I'm already here, and got the nice outbraking maneuver done. So it still kind of stays in stride. Shinichi chasing Bolton.
Rob Russell on the way back through as he goes off course along with Larry Haas. Thankfully, neither of them winds up into the wall there. Often you can find yourself in a big accident with all the speed you carry. Ahead of them, John Momeyer trying to keep that podium position that he's got right now into the braking of the hairpin, cutting back underneath. But more contact as Russell's into the wall with Haas, both of them clattering into the Armco.
So unfortunate to have another incident with Rob Russell on that one, and man, that was a tough one there. I'm sure we'll get a replay, but to me it seemed like maybe Larry Haas could have left a little bit more room as they were tracking out on exit, but unfortunate day for Rob Russell.
One thing we haven't mentioned is they do have an incident limit in this series, and Larry Haas has hit that, so he's got a drive-through penalty now from too many incidents, so he's going to have to go and serve that to add to his woes. We still haven't gotten to the pit stops as well. We still got 16 minutes left. We should be hitting them soon, I think, if drivers will have to take it, says Andrew Chinichi is caught up to Bolton. Here's that little contact that unfortunately neither seemed to be able to stop what was the inevitable run down into the inside wall.
Yeah, just Larry was really pinching it down to the inside there. I think that Rob was expecting more room as Chinichi still trying to find his way by Michael Bolton. He has this terrific run. Oh, there's the lap car of Larry Haas kind of right on the racetrack there, but both of those cars are able to navigate, get around Rob Russell here hopefully as well. So our leaders having to navigate through some of that multi-class traffic, even if it's wounded out there.
Yeah, I was just about to say, those cars were limping, so they definitely were not running in an expected way for the pair of them. Again, Chinichi can't seem to get by, but I know he probably wants to get him now, but they're still 10 seconds behind. So if they start battling one another, it almost is going to be worse because they'll continue to lose to Fulton.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to catch Fulton. Yes, their lap times, even when battling, are 3/4 of a second faster than our leader. But I just don't see him catching them within the 15 minutes, plus the pit stop and everything going on. Here's a replay of what happened to Larry Haas. Looks like with no wing, just kind of lost it there in 130R, and so that's why he was on the racetrack. But kind of back to my point, I think that they can easily catch up to Dustin Heindel, the Cookie Monster machine, who you see just up the road here, and I think that should be the goal.
Absolutely. I think they've got the pace to try and get that P2. They'll have a little traffic that could affect things. Jim Garamanis staying out of the way and off to the right-hand side. That'll work beautifully for Dustin. What about the timing here in the spoon curve? Oh, it's tight. And thankfully, he sees them in his mirrors and lets them by.
Yeah, Michael Bolton definitely got pretty close to the door there, and oh my goodness, Andrew Chinichi is as close as he's ever been, and you see full defensive to the left side of the racetrack from Michael Bolton. Andrew's going to force the issue around drivers right now. He breathes off the gas just oh so slightly to fall back into the slipstream line. Not close enough to make that lunge going into the Castillo triangle. It's a tough combo there between the aero wash and staying close enough to make the move on the brakes.
I'm surprised he lifted. I would have thought that he would try to force the issue to make him take that awkward line. He's got another chance here as he's still right with him coming up to turn one, but he'll have to be very good down into the sweeping right-hander. And no, he can't seem to make the pass once again, but they're regaining on Dustin Heindel with every corner. Here through the S's, will they find themselves on his bumper by the end of it?
Bolton's car is going to start to handle differently too. And these cars don't have a ton of aero wake, but when you're used to clean air and all of a sudden you're now half second behind a car, you're definitely going to feel the difference. And now they're running up on a lap car as well. Seems like Heindel is way off the gas. Bolton's taking advantage, too wide through the S's here, approaching the Degner corners, and Chinichi takes advantage as well. They're both up to second and third.
Woo! Traffic played a huge part in that one. Heindel may be ruining his reticence there, and he comes away with fourth place. Bolton now into P2, still at about those 10 seconds behind, and Chinichi following. Once they're in clear air here, let's see, or if they don't fight each other at least, what their outright pace is going to look like.
Oh my goodness, talk about making decisions in a split second. That's exactly what Bolton and Chinichi were able to do, as we see Shulam and Rondo get around some of the lap cars as well. But that was a heck of a moment there, and I think that Bolton did the right thing. You know, Heindel was being patient, being nice behind one of those Caymans, and Bolton said, hey, I gotta go.
Yeah, that was great stuff. I mean, brave, but very worth the effort. As we come back to Shulam for brief moments. Chinichi still right there, down into the chicane. And again, no attack made. We're not going to get a clear view on this lap, but let me see what their lap times are just for the heck of it as they cross the line. It does look like Bolton managed a 57.9.
Yeah, and Bolton a 58.6. So, yes, these two cars are still faster than our leader. And Shinichi, I think, is the fastest of the group. He just has this lime green and black Porsche right smack on the racetrack directly in front of him. And Bolton has just done a terrific job to kind of absorb all the pressure, get around those lap cars, which they just did again going through what is turn number 6. So Shinichi's going to have to crank it up or get into a move that he hasn't shown yet.
Definitely filling the mirrors. They've got more traffic up ahead. Marciniak this time still sitting in second place. He's not going to want to give this one away, so he'll probably give them a wide berth to make sure he doesn't get caught up in it, and indeed, he lets them through.
What about the drive coming up off of this hairpin here? Oh, Bolton, a little bit of loss of traction, so Shinichi's going to have a nice run, but we've seen this before, right? Just stick to driver's right, force the other car the long way around, and can't really do much. Can he force it into the spoon curve? No, he just shows the nose kind of half a car width to the inside, keeping the clean air on the splitter. Same thing with the second apex. Bolton does a nice job to accelerate off of the corner.
So here's a question. If they do need that pit stop and you're Shinichi, do you try to dive in thinking that you're quicker than Bolton and you could just leapfrog him?
Yes, of course, right? Oh, here's the lunge going into the Casio triangle. Can he get the car stopped? Locks up, goes and makes contact with Bolton. And now Michael's going to rejoin the racetrack. Shinichi lets him have the position. And there goes Bolton making the pit call down to pit road.
I think, yeah, instead it's going to be Andrew, who feels like he's had enough of this battling. He can be a little bit faster on his own. So he needs to get the fuel to get to the end. I think that's an indication that we'll see most of the drivers pitting in relatively shortly. Christopher Marciniak is amongst them. He is in pit lane.
And just going through turn number 2 there, Shinichi here got really, really wide and had a huge slide. I'm sure it probably cost him a little bit of lap time not standing on the gas. So when you don't have the competitor in front, kind of to your point, you want to execute that undercut strategy. You don't want to be sliding the car around.
Here's a little look at it. I feel like Andrew's been a little overambitious at times in this race. I'm not sure if he's just been ruffled by all that's gone on or what, but it's definitely not the typical racing we've seen from him.
Agreed. And I don't want to pick on him, but yes, you're right. I do feel like that was a little bit of an aggressive move going into the Casio chicane triangle, whatever you want to call it. However, you know, he's showed the nose a couple times. He knows that he's faster. He was going to force the issue. But you can always say you had 10 more minutes to force a new issue.
Woo! He's, again, using every little bit of track there as he goes by Larry Haas, missing his rear wing still, but carrying on. Now, one thing I can't stress enough in all of this is our leader, BJ Fulton, has had 5 second places and no wins this season and is facing a golden opportunity. I'm sure there's a few nerves inside that cockpit knowing he's got such a great chance right now to try and get this win. There he is on your screen right now, starting another lap. Not coming into pits yet, though.
But talk about setting some performance on the track. That last lap from our leader, a 1:57.4. That was his fastest lap of the race. And I'm watching Shinichi on my screen, a 58.7. So that lap from our leader here in the number 82 car that we're watching, that was a great lap, exactly what he needed to do. We were talking about how the pair of drivers was actually a little bit faster than BJ Fulton earlier, but maybe he was just on cruise control, and now he's finally kind of showing the pace now that he's got a 12-second lead to Andrew.
Exactly. It seems like there is more to it here. That was his quickest lap of the race, that 57.4. That said, Shinichi, his best so far is a 56.6, so 0.8 of a second faster. But we don't know what kind of state that Andrew's car is in after now he's been involved in another bit of contact a little bit earlier. Could be a little bit off pace for him as we watch Fulton head towards Spoon Curve. Will he pit this time?
If he doesn't pit this time, Joe, I mean, it's got to be next time, right? I think that they usually have a pit window of, call it 10 to 20 minutes remaining in a normal race. We had the full course yellow, so that gets dropped down. We had about 8 minutes or so under full course yellow between the first lap of green and by the time we got restarted. So it can make the window very, very narrow if you can stretch it all the way or if you have to come down pit road. So, 6.5 minutes remaining. Does he come down on the racetrack?
Okay. So he'll give it one more. Shinichi, could he also try and respond, or is he going to stay out to try and get as much of a difference to... Nope, he's going to go in. Shinichi is pitting, so I was wondering if he's going to try to stretch it just to get more time away from Michael Bolton so that he could try and maybe pull the gap into the overcut. But we'll see where they come out in relation to one another. Rob Russell back with Marciniak. Caught him back up, interestingly. What's this battle going to look like for what is currently P3 down in the GT4s?
Got to execute the pass this time, and I just wanted to note, I was watching Shinichi come to a stop in his pit box, Joe. Unfortunately, he slid through his pit box, not by a ton, but he did have to grab that reverse gear, and you know how much that can cost him time.
Well, you know how much it cost him? A position. He would have been ahead if he had not missed that, because look at how close behind Bolton is he right now.
Yep, nope, that's exactly what happened right there, and I'm sure that he's probably just not happy with himself between the moves on the racetrack, not happy with himself on pit road. Just things don't seem to be going right for him tonight.
Not in the least, and this also helps out Dustin Heindel in a way, I suppose, since he watched those two have their coming together, but not sure if he's had enough pace to try and make it interesting with them either. But the battle rages on now with a mere 5 minutes left on the clock. Both these drivers have their pit stops done. It's going to have to be done on the track.
So, Joe, I know how most racing drivers act in this situation, but let's ask you, do you think that Shinichi is staying red misted, or do you think he's learned his lesson?
I feel like he's still got a lot of frustration under that helmet from what we've been witnessing. It is definitely more mistakes than we're used to seeing out of the Californian. But he's got another good run. Does not want to waste this opportunity because Fulton is pitting right now. Will he force it this time? He lifted, he breathed on the throttle last time, and it looks like he did. Kind of let him through, but now he's going to cut back, and he's got an opportunity to try and outbrake him down the chicane, but he's going to be on the outside of the first apex, inside of the next one. Cut back goes right back to Bolton, but he can't get the launch off the corner. That was a fantastic recovery from Shinichi to be clever in the moment.
Here comes Bolton with the draft down the straightaway. He's all the way up driver's right. I think that he's got more top speed in his machine, and Shinichi just hung out to dry on the outside, so taking back the position is that 127 of Michael Bolton.
Maybe he hasn't been lifting down that straight. Maybe that is Bolton just genuinely being faster in a straight line.
I think so, and I think that's also why Shinichi is all over him throughout the entirety of this Suzuka course. I mean, look at him. He's right underneath the rear wing through this entire S section, through the Deckner curves. I'm sure he won't let more than maybe half a car width go in between them, so that screams to me, yeah, more grip, but you need the top-end speed in order to make the passes.
This has given us a lot of fun, I'll say that, but it's certainly been a lesson in trying to maybe take some of the downforce off if you're Andrew Shinichi for the next time they're at a track like this. Or maybe he thought he would be out in the clear and he wouldn't have to be trying to pass cars today, as Fulton came back out with plenty of gap to them, although it has come down, I will say. It's at 8.5 seconds at this point.
Let's see here about the run through Spoon Curve. Shinichi actually sliding the car quite a bit off into the gravel, so he's not going to be nearly as close as what he was this prior lap, but maybe that's something that he needs here, is just a little bit more of a momentum run going through 130R, going through the Casio Triangle to maybe try something going down into turn number 1, but it's going to be tough to catch that car that's got more top-end speed. You saw how deep he tried to really send it there on the brakes and actually lost a little bit of time.
So BJ Fulton crossed the line with enough for 2 laps to go. That gives them even more to try and catch up to them. Last lap, Chad Duncan, Bolton with a 56.9. Fulton, well, I guess a 2:19 because he was in pit lane, so we won't fully know it. But I mean, they have been gaining, but it's a long, long ways. They could still catch Chad Duncan though, who is still in second in front of them.
Yeah, definitely. That 83 has been doing a really good job up there. The 5.4 second stop. And, it was that Rob Russell off of the racetrack again. So his woes continue, unfortunately, for that silver number 15 in the Cayman class.
That is a real shame to see. He had good speed today. He is going to take a toe in a pit lane. That might be race over for him with so little time left on the clock. Somehow Heindel has wound up in 5th in the meantime. I'm not sure how. I thought he was more battling with Bolton and Shinichi.
The one that puzzles me, Joe, is that Chad Duncan car, because he must have pitted during that first yellow flag because he's got 13 laps on his stint, and he's found himself in second place.
I think you're right. So the math
There's more contact. Sorry.
Geez, yeah, I had looked away at the wrong time here. Got to keep an eye on this battle. But yeah, the math must be right that you could pit during that yellow and get away with it. And that has gifted him a number of places. That was really smart from him. In the meantime, this has been the action zone coming through 130R and down into the chicane. What's it going to look like this time as they swing through the left-hander? Leaves the door open. Oh my goodness, we didn't see the lap car coming. And they both have to split them. And that's not going to allow an opportunity for Andrew Chinichi. That had to be frightening for that car.
Terrifically played by both of them, and I'm just happy everybody got through 130R without getting into a tire wall over there. So 1 lap remaining here at Suzuka.
That was Garamani, who's going for a 4th place finish, which I think might be one of his best that we'll have seen. Who managed to avoid disaster. Ooh, that's a really good exit out of turn 2, but just not enough straightaway here to the S's for Shinichi. Oh, my goodness. They're down to about 2 seconds behind Duncan. With all of this happening, they're still running down that 83 car.
And they got more lap traffic directly in front of them. Oh, thankfully he gets out of the way, so nicely done from that car right there. Chinichi starts to close it in a little bit more through these bending corners, through the first Degner. Let's see how aggressive he is, more aggressive on the brakes. Really gets that apex and stands on the gas. This could be an opportunity going into the hairpin. He goes driver's left. However, not going to make the move on entry.
Loved that replay we got of the onboard with Garamani. Fulton on the final lap of the race now with still a handy lead of 8 seconds over Duncan. Bolton, though, is trying his hardest to catch up to Chad Duncan. At the same time, holding off Chinichi, who is just desperate to try and take this spot away from him.
And Chinichi really struggled coming off with a spoon curve exit. Oh my goodness, there is a lot of traffic directly in front of him, including Momeyer, who's battling Christopher Marciniak for position. There goes Chad Duncan around. Let's see what Chinichi can do.
And we're not going to get to see it right now, unfortunately, because BJ Fulton is going to take the win for the first time this season in the GT1 class.
Oh my goodness, Chad Duncan's going to come home with a 2nd place finish, it looks like. Almost out-dragged to the line. Michael Bolton will round out the podium. Joe, it got busy from 130R through the Casio Triangle. Christopher Marciniak was bouncing off the walls. Andrew Chinichi locking up, diving down the inside, driving it off the racetrack. Oh man, there was a lot.
Yeah, it was tight for that 2nd place in the end. I'm sure we'll take a look at a replay so we can give it the proper focus as Shulam comes home 7th. We're still actually waiting for Federico Del Toro to come around. He'll be the only car to finish on, 1 lap down, technically, from the leaders, as everybody else was another lap behind, I believe, as BJ Fulton didn't quite catch up to Federico. So a nice, easy victory lap for the 27.
Yeah, we didn't talk too much about Del Toro, but Had a fantastic qualifying effort and then led every lap. There's Marciniak bouncing off of the wall, and then here comes Chinichi down the inside of Bolton. Can't keep it on the racetrack. That could have been a lot more disaster than just one car.
Pretty sure that Chinichi is going to be glad to see the other side of the Casio Triangle after today. That was just a place of frustration for him, but it is certainly a location of happiness for Federico Del Toro, who will win in the GT4 class, adding to his tally and extending his point lead.
Well, that was an eventful race.
To say the least.
From the first lap to getting that yellow flag to the last lap, oh my goodness.
You can't say they don't give us entertainment. My goodness. It was something else today. And up at the front of it all, BJ Fulton gets that Cinderella victory he's been looking for all season long. Finally on the top step of the podium over Jad Duncan, who was only 2/10 ahead of Bolton at the line. It was Andrew Chinichi who had to settle for fourth after starting on the front row, and then Dustin Heindel finished P5. Then it was Mark Rondeau in sixth, Jeffrey Schulam in seventh, and Robert Leclerc in eighth. Will Castillo was a DNF today.
Then over to that Cayman class was Federico Del Toro, your winner, your pole sitter, led every single lap up there. Call it a clean sweep for that silver number 27. John Momeyer with a terrific drive today comes up and finishes in second place, gained 4 positions. And talk about another great drive, Jim Garamani with a podium finish as well in that third spot. Rob Russell unfortunately had quite a few incidents today, slips down to fourth, as well as we saw Christopher Marciniak there on the very, very last set of corners on the final lap for him, drops down to fifth. Larry Haas, sixth, and unfortunately Alan Watts had some problems out there, finishes seventh.
So we're going to start with third place finisher in the GTE cars, and that is Michael Bolton, who I'm sure has a novel of a story to tell us about this race. Michael, I mean, that was a titanic fight for the ages between you and Andrew.
That definitely was. It's good to be back on the podium, that's for sure. Could have gone a couple different ways, but I'm glad to still have a P3. It's still a good result, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It looked like a lot of fun, but I mean, talk about some of the incidents out there. We kind of felt like maybe there was some cases where Andrew was getting overambitious or making some mistakes. What was your viewpoint?
I think netcode probably was the cause of the first incident, also the caution in the yellow laps. But I think, then he missed the braking point into the chicane at the end there. But no, I mean honestly, it was good hard racing, and the tires at the very end started to fall off of a cliff, and I just had this car's downforce trimmed out as low as I could. So even though he was able to do an overtake, I was still able to catch him by the end of it. So props to BJ and props to Jad as well.
Yeah, I mean, great strategy call. Are you keeping that one in mind for the next time you guys get a yellow at the start of a race?
I would prefer to not have a yellow, because I had a nice 3-second gap when he had a moment, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a nice little buffer here, and then we got stacked up again. But yeah, gotta do some more practice for the next one.
For sure. Well, congratulations, Michael, on a podium today, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you at Willow Springs.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
That was Michael Bolton finishing P3. And sounds like Joey has caught up with our finally first-time winner this season, BJ Fulton.
Yeah, talk about congratulations in order, BJ. How does it feel?
Feels pretty good. It was lucky, to say the least, but, I'll take it for sure.
You had a front row seat to it all going down right through your windshield. What was your take on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I set my car up with a lot of downforce, and I knew it was going to be hard to pass, so I was just ready to sit behind people and wait for mistakes. I didn't quite expect that big of a mistake, but yeah, it was pretty bad. It looked like Andrew also had a very high downforce setup, and it was just really hard to follow Michael Bolton with a lower downforce setup, especially on that final corner.
We kind of picked up on that pretty late in the race out there, but once you were out in clean air, it seemed like pretty clean sailing. Did you have any issues from then on out?
No, it was all just about managing the race from there. I saw a big gap, so I started fuel saving just to make sure I had some extra fuel at the end, and just tried to keep it clean.
Well, congrats on the win here at Suzuka. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I mean, I got to give a shout out to Andrew for clearing the way for me tonight.
Well, that was BJ Fulton, your winner here at Suzuka.
There's a little bit of a cheeky nod there as we've got second place as well. Jad Duncan, who is also kind of cheeky. You did an early pit stop, and that seemed to have made the difference for you today.
Yeah, that worked out well. Made a mistake early, and it paid off on accident.
I mean, when it got towards the end of the race and you saw that you were running in second, what was going through your head?
Well, I kind of saw that from the start because I was looking at the splits and doing the math of the pit stop usually takes about 40 seconds, and I was 30 seconds behind. I'm like, this could work out quite well. And then I think Andrew and Michael had some contact, which really helped me. I was hoping for third or fourth, and that moved me up to second. It's been a good day all in all. My wife had good news with her chemo, and I haven't got lucky on the race. It's just been a very good day.
Well, that is fantastic news then. So best wishes from us to her and to you as well on that. And talk about that last couple of laps, because I have to imagine that you were probably watching the relative box to see how close they were getting.
I was watching it, and I knew they had a few tenths on me, but if I needed to, I could speed it up a little bit. It's just traffic coming up on the last lap when two GT4s were side by side. I'm like, oh, this could be a little slower than I wanted. But kind of pushed my way through there. I hope I didn't mess their race up too much. But I've been watching Bolton for a while, closing slowly, but compared to laps counting down, I wasn't real worried about that.
Staying cool under pressure. Well, it netted you a second place. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good day.
Chad Duncan, P2 in the GTEs. I feel like up next, are we heading to our winner over in GT4s, Joey?
Yeah, it seems like we've got Federico Del Toro joining the party. Congrats on the win.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good win. I don't know what happened behind me because we were having a pretty close race, and all of a sudden something must have happened because they went backwards.
Yeah, they got caught up in an incident amongst themselves, but talk to me about the restart. You guys were 3 wide down the front straightaway.
Yeah, I outsmarted myself on the restart. I made it too hard for me.
Well,
Yeah.
there's always something to learn for next time, but it seemed like you enjoyed this Suzuka track. It seemed to click with you pretty well.
Yeah, I like the course. It's a super fun. It's a super fun track, and I enjoyed it. Too bad the guys fell off because we were having a close race out there at the start.
Well, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
No, just everybody. My wife that puts up with all my stuff. The guys that are always helping me with setups and pushing me through, and just the same people. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for doing a great job.
That was Federico Del Toro driving that gray number 27 car, coming home with another Cayman class win.
And incredibly, something we haven't touched on, John Momeyer wound up second after all of that. John, how does one go from wrecking out on lap 1 to winding up on the podium?
Well, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been talking to you in this booth, and miracles, I guess. Just caught up to the back of the pack after that yellow flag. Thank you for the yellow flag. I think I was missing a right rear wheel after that wreck. Couldn't move at all. Had to take the tow. So was very happy to do that, and I don't know what happened in front of me to end up second. Even at the very end there, going into the last 2 turns, someone went off in the wall.
Well, sometimes you got to take it how it comes. Do you think you can maybe use this good luck to rub off on Willow Springs at all? Do you find yourself usually with good results over there?
Well, I'm usually better at the live track than I am at the sim track, so I'm looking forward to our first actual live broadcast coming up of our live races here in a couple weeks, and then getting back to the sim after that.
Have to use some of that experience to help you find some speed. And, well, again, congratulations on an excellent second place.
Thank you very much.
John Momeyer P2 in the GT4s, which will wrap us up with, of course, a big thank you to our sponsors once again. Porsche, there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG. You can contact them today at TopGunMG.com. Thanks to the team, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we were just talking about, Willow Springs will be the next event Monday, May 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern. But we've got more racing here on GSRC to tune into, including Sim Racing Republic up next, heading to Interlagos. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.